I hope y'all can see alright, because I'm using my Keurig as a camera stand. I'm making pepperoni rolls. My hands are clean, I promise. This dough is just a basic butter dough. It's basically just pizza dough. It's 5 cups flour, 3/4 cups of white sugar, a cup of water, a packet of active dry yeast, half a cup of butter, and 2 teaspoons of salt, I think is, and 2 eggs. And it proofed for about an hour and a half, and then I punched it down, and now I'm forming it into more of a rectangle. A wrinkly rectangle, but a rectangle nonetheless, because I'm going to cut it into sections. I'm making 4 large pepperoni rolls, so I'm going to go... I don't have a pastry knife. Oops. Get out of the way. I'm going to go horizontally in half, and then vertically in half. I don't have a rolling pin either, so here's hoping. Then, my stove is making noises at me. Going to separate these out a little bit. Hope you can still see okay. Okay. So now I'm just gonna shape them up a little bit more. And then I've got this, where's my camera? Hunk of mozzarella here. It's just a block of low moisture mozzarella. I'm going to cut it into strips. I don't like using shaved mozzarella for this process, or grated, or however the heck they describe it, because it usually has some sort of a coating to keep it from sticking to itself, and that doesn't lend to as good of a melt. So I'm going to use this whole block of cheese. Just because I don't want to have a block of mozzarella in my refrigerator. So now what I'm going to do is make the dough rectangles have a bit of overhang on either side of the mozzarella, and then squish it back up a little bit. This is so that the whole thing has bread on either side to keep everything contained, which will help reduce burned cheese smell in your house if the cheese decides that it wants to escape the dough. So you just press the mozzarella bits down into the dough a little bit and make sure that it has some boundaries. And now I've got this pepperoni. It is store brand because we aren't supposed to go to the store these days. So I did go to the store, but I didn't go far. I just went down the street to the local little market, and they don't have fancy pepperoni. So now I am going to do a little line of pep right here. I'm going to double up my little line of pep. How many did I do? 6. Okay. You don't have to put this much pepperoni in yours. I'm just putting this much because this is what we're having for dinner tonight, and I don't want anybody to go hungry. Just now realizing that I forgot to preheat the oven, so that's fun. Luckily, it was already on to proof this dough, so that shouldn't be too big of a deal. Hold on. I'm setting my oven to 350 degrees. You may also want to go ahead and have a pan greased, just like a cookie pan will work, before you get started actually making the rolls. Whoops. That one's gonna need a little working. It's too baby. Hermes has decided to join us. He probably smelled... Jeez, bro. He probably smelled that meat. Go away. Go away. So next I'm going to grease a cooking sheet of some sort. I'm using this cookie tray with raised edges. I'm going to grease it pretty liberally, especially if you didn't have enough dough to seal the edges super well. So you just want to lay them flat, horizontally, seal side down on your baking tray. Oh boy, I don't know if I have enough space for all 4 of them. Okay, so they'll expand somewhat during cooking. So I don't want to have them super close together, but there may not be a lot I can do about that, actually. And if you have the problem that they run together while they're cooking, you can just cut them apart. It's not going to change how they taste at all. It'll just make them not be 8 miles long, which is important, because that's not a pepperoni roll. And now I'm just waiting for the oven to preheat. And then these will go in at 350 degrees until they're golden brown on top, which I think is about 10 minutes. It may be longer. I'll update you how long it actually takes. So while I'm waiting for these pepperoni rolls to bake, I thought I'd talk a little bit about pepperoni rolls, their history, and their appeal. It's claimed that
Pepperoni rolls were invented in 1926 by Giuseppe Argiro in Fairmont, West Virginia. Pepperoni roll historians, because that's a thing, in Fairmount are pretty sure that it wasn't invented until 1940-something, though. But nobody disputes that it was invented at the Culture Club Bakery in Fairmont, West Virginia. It was invented because miners needed a long-lasting, sturdy, and portable lunch while they were at work, and Giuseppe noticed that a coworker of his was eating pieces of pepperoni and bread at the same time, like the rat from Ratatouille, but people, and decided that he'd just combine them into one big food. And they pretty much exploded. Like, it just took off. And then when he passed away, he left the recipe to his son, who was called Cheech Argiro, which is unfortunate for him in several ways. And the recipe's just been passed down through the generations, and still is the main source of income for the Culture Club bakery, as far as I know. I could be wrong. I haven't even been to the Culture Club bakery, but they do still make pepperoni rolls, and quite a few of them. I don't know when, but at some point a bill was introduced in Congress to outlaw the industrial baking and selling of pepperoni rolls, under the claims that because you couldn't see the meat, you couldn't know if it was cooked correctly. And the West Virginia, I think the West Virginia senator at the time, managed to have that bill not go into effect. However, some states in the United States decided that they would do their own version of that bill. So it is currently illegal to mass produce and sell pepperoni rolls in the great Commonwealth of Virginia and a few other places, which is super annoying to me because I moved to Virginia and I expected them to not be unreasonable about my meat products. Personally, I don't understand why pepperoni rolls are explicitly targeted by these bills, other than people just don't like Appalachians. Don't know what that's about either. Actually, I do know what that's about, and I'm sorry. But the problem that I have with it is that things like meat-filled pierogies and ravioli and stromboli and calzones, stuff like that, is not included in the bill, or the law, I suppose, at this point. So those are still legal to mass produce and sell already cooked to, consumers. But pepperoni rolls, no. And that's all the history I think I have for pepperoni rolls. There's certainly more history, I just don't have it. Things I enjoy about pepperoni rolls, and this is obviously not the same for everybody, nobody has the same taste buds, but there are some things that are universal to pepperoni rolls, or at least should be universal to pepperoni rolls. Personally, I like them with the cheese inside. You can nix the cheese if you're lactose intolerant, which I am, but I'm still eating the cheese. Or if you just don't like cheese because you're a heathen. I'm kidding. Do what you want. It's your mouth. Traditionally, pepperoni rolls don't include cheese. And I think putting cheese in them is probably considered blasphemous in some circles. I don't care. I'll do what I want, and that's that. That's on a period. Pepperoni rolls, the way that they cook means that some of the grease from the pepperoni seeps out into the bread and makes it taste phenomenal. It's so good. It's so good. It's so good. I don't know, there's not many more words that you can put on that. The grease also, some of the water from the pepperoni evaporates inside of the bread and makes sure that the whole inside is moist, as they say in the biz. And you know, it is exactly what it was invented to be, which is a sturdy, portable, relatively filling food. A lot of grocery stores in West Virginia, like Kroger and Walmart, make and sell pepperoni rolls in bulk, but usually they're not as fun as when you make them yourself or get them from like a legit baker, because I worked at Kroger, so I can attest to this. Basically, you take a long piece of white bread dough and you thaw it out and you smush it down, and you're allotted 3 pieces of pepperoni per roll, and the rolls are about this big around and about that thick, and that's not a pepperoni roll. That's a weird breadstick with some pepperoni on it. They're fine though, you know? Like, I don't care. And these pepperoni rolls are almost done, so now I can stop talking. They are... I think I baked them originally for 16 minutes, and then they were still too pale on top. I still think they're a little too pale. Well, never mind. I baked them for increments of 5 minutes after that until they reached this color. I think there were 3 more 5-minute increments. Oh. These are fresh out of the oven. I'm gonna let them cool for a while. You can see these two attached to each other. I'll just cut them apart. This one cracked a little, you can see right there. And you can also see the pepperoni grease has permeated the area for prime goodness. And I'm just gonna, because these are very hot, also very dense. I'm going to let them cool, and then we will eat them later. And that is the end of the video.